Gators, welcome back and thanks for joining me as we finish out the last chapter of Ivy and Bean. So we are up to chapter 10. If you'll remember at the end of chapter 9, the girls had gathered the worms and Bean got kind of mad at Nancy for crying over pierced ears instead of missing her. And so Nancy came outside and was chasing them, and they threw worms in her face, and then she ended up slipping and sort of waggling as she fell into the worm pit. And, so it was kind of like she ended up doing the dancing spell after all. So we are finally up to our last chapter. The girls are going to get in a little bit of trouble for that. This chapter is called No Dessert. Let's find out what happens. Ivy and Bean by Annie Barrows, illustrated by Sophie Blackall. Chapter 10, No Dessert. No dessert, said Bean. No videos for a week. But at least they didn't make me stay in my room. Ivy was sitting next to Bean on her front porch. It was almost dark. They watched the bugs flying around the streetlight. I don't think they're really mad, said Ivy. You don't? They had seemed pretty mad to Bean. They have to act mad so they'll seem fair to your sister, Ivy said. But your mom had this little teeny smile on her face when she pulled Nancy out of the pit. She thought it was funny. Bean smiled too, remembering. It was funny. It was great. Nancy said she's never going to speak to either of us ever again. And she took back the coloring book she gave me. Well, she never spoke to me before today, so that won't be any different for me. It'll be better for me, but I bet she doesn't stick to it. Bean yawned. It had been a big day. She turned to Ivy. Do you think the spell is what made her dance? Of course. Ivy sounded very sure. But after a minute she said, I didn't have time to say the spell, really. I just sort of thought it at the last second. Bean stared into the shadowy yard. Maybe that's why she didn't dance for very long, because you only thought the spell instead of saying it. Next time I'll say it. You're going to do it again? On who? Bean asked. I was thinking about that Mrs. Trance, said Ivy. Bean pictured Mrs. Trance kicking up her feet on the edge of a muddy pit. It would be a beautiful sight. Can you teach me how to burp like that? Asked Bean. Sure, said Ivy. Maybe I'll try something new on Mrs. Trance, like a storm of grasshoppers. Is that a hard one? No, but we have to start with a lot of grasshoppers, said Ivy. It seems like all the spells have bugs in them, said Bean. Not all of them, said Ivy. Potions don't. Potions? That sounded fun. Let's make a potion, Bean said. Okay, said Ivy. Tomorrow we'll make potions. I know what, said Bean. Tomorrow, let's fix up a lab in your room. Then we can make potions. She pictured a lab with shelves full of little bottles. She and Ivy would wear goggles. Ivy sat up straighter. Yeah, that'll be good. We'll dump the dressing room and get some shelves with little bottles, and maybe a counter. Bean? Bean's mother came out onto the front porch. There you are. It's almost bath time. Ivy, do you want me to walk you home? Okay, said Ivy. But Bean's mom sat down beside Bean and looked at the nighttime sky. You girls have certainly had a big day, haven't you? Bean leaned against her mother's arm. Tomorrow, we're going to make a lab in Ivy's room. You are you? Said Bean's mom. What for? Potions, said Ivy. What kind of potions? Asked Bean's mom. Secret potions, said Ivy. There was a silence. Then Bean's mom said, No matches, no poison, no explosions, no deadly fumes, no bugging Nancy. Is that clear? Ivy and Bean looked at each other and rolled their eyes. Weren't you the one who was always telling me to play with her? Said Bean. Wasn't this all your idea in the first place? Bean's mother smiled at them in the dark. The light on Ivy's porch came on, and Ivy's mom stepped out the door. She waved across the street. "Time to come in, honey." Down the stairs and across the circle she came in the moonlight. Ivy stood up. So did Bean. "See you tomorrow." "See you tomorrow." And the day after that, Bean added in her mind. Ivy, holding her mother's hand in the middle of the street, turned around to look at Bean. "And the day after that," she said. That was such a good ending, and it sounds like Ivy and Bean are going to be really good friends for a long time. In fact, we know they are because the author has written 11 more Ivy and Bean books. I'm going to show you a quick preview of the second book, Ivy and Bean and the Ghost That Had to Go, but also I'm going to invite you to take a look at the author's website, www.anniebarrows.com, to find out a little bit more about Ivy and Bean and another series that she has coming out. So I hope you enjoyed this one, and let's gear up for our next exciting chapter book beginning really soon. Here's a sneak peek. It's called Sam Wu is Not Afraid of Ghosts. I'll see you soon, Gators. So my friends, here's a quick preview. If you go on www.anniebarrows.com, there is a section for kids and a section for grown-ups. Let me show you what the kids section has in it. So at the top, there's a part that shows a little sneak peek of The Best of Iggy, which is a brand new series by Annie Barrows. This first one was just published in January of 2020, so we hope there's lots more Iggy to come. And at the bottom of this webpage, you can click on Ivy and Bean and take a look at what the author says about the collection of books, and even see a little video about Ivy and Bean. And finally, I'm going to leave you with a quick preview of Ivy and Bean Book 2, called Ivy and Bean, The Ghost That Had to Go. Here's what it's about. There's a ghost in the bathroom at Emerson's school. Ivy and Bean can see its cloudy form and its glowing eyes. They can hear its moaning voice. This is the best thing that ever happened at school, until the teachers find out. Now Ivy and Bean have to figure out how to get the ghost out of the bathroom. Will they succeed? Maybe. Will they have fun? Of course.